Okay, this is my eminent P275 organ, which I got off a free ads website in London for 50 quid from an old couple. It was taken out of their living room. I think the guy was sad to see it go, but his wife was ecstatic to have it out of the house, I think. And it's got the main reason why I took a punt on it was because it's got the Solina strings in it, and I used that all over Tyson's album for that sort of you know, kind of ABBA string sound. And it's also on that same album too, you can plug into the bottom. It's got an audio input that goes through the spring reverb and out of the speaker. So I used that to mic up a lot of the synths on that record. They were, you know, like you would with a guitar, you take a direct and a mic and you blend them. I did that a lot to get some sort of band vibe, I guess. But yeah, the sounds are great. It's pretty. You can't really. There's not a whole lot of adjustment, but there's a few nice. It's got like an analog filter in it and stuff. Paraphonic type synth. Beats, which you know, if you like that sort of thing. Bass pedals are great. Don't use them much because it hasn't got a proper line level output. So I tend to, every time I record it, I mic it up, which is, you know, but that's quite nice in itself as well. Gives me a bit of a different sound. Juno 106. It was the first synth I bought, which was, you know, it's everybody's got one. Won't bore you with it too much, but it always sounds good. You know, never sounds bad, never sounds incredible, but it's just really dependable. And you know, I kind of learned how to program a lot on it. OBXA, which is the absolute opposite to that. It's really unreliable, but sounds great. If you catch it on a good day, you know, it'll really make the track. Arp Odyssey, Whiteface, again, one of my first synths I got. Love it. It's just got loads of character. Everything you do on it sounds kind of legit and like a proper. The filter's great, obviously. I really like the noise as well. It sounds like a simple thing, but it just sounds better than, maybe it's because it's through the filter. It just tends to sound better. Like John Carpenter record. And it's got that as well, the kind of I'm a big fan of like 70s jazz records, and it has a lot of that, you know, like George Duke, Herbie Hancock, Joe Zawinul, kind of. That kind of sound. It does great again, the kind of as well, it kind of sounds, it does soft sounds well. I think better than my other synths, and it seems to me nowadays, especially, a lot of the selling point of a synth is kind of how aggressive it is, and there's all these people demoing stuff with the filter wide open, like, you know, listen, just check out how bright this sounds, and but this has a really nice sort of level of subtlety to it. Okay, so Pro 1, great for bass. It's missing the top key, but I got this for like 150 quid, again off the same free ads website. Mostly use it for bass because, as well, it's got a simple sequencer built into it, so I can kind of, you know, get some kind of disco bass going. And as well, for me, I'm working a lot on my own. These things are really handy because I can set that off, and then I can go over the other side of the room and I can kind of engineer my own sounds, which is great. And you hook it up to the drum machines and stuff, and you can get a song happening really quickly. But yeah, to be honest, I use that mostly just for that sort of bass sound. Okay, this is my broken Mac Classic, which until recently let me edit samples on my emulator too, but it's just died. But it looks so cool. It's difficult to put it in the bin, so it'll stay up there for a little while. SH101, also 150 quid from the same guy I bought the Pro 1 from, so God bless that guy, wherever he is. In the same vein as the Pro 1, I can set up a sequence, sync it to a drum machine, and get a song happening really quickly without the computer. I think a lot of the time it's used for that sort of, that kind of housey bass sort of thing, but it does, I think it does soft sort of leads pretty well too. Yeah, sequence arpeggiator is all great. TX7 doesn't get used much, but you know, they're cheap, so it doesn't have to, I guess. Drum tracks, brilliant. First drum machine I bought. Always, again, just sounds kind of legit, and it sounds, you know, proper. I used that all over the Tyson record. TR707 works great with the Pro 1 and the SH101, again, just to get a track happening, and the sounds in themselves are great too. Roland vocoder, you know, if you need one, then that works really well. DI boxes I'm quite big into. This little grey one is actually, I found a schematic on the internet of the, I think it was called the bass box that Bruce Swedien made on, for recording bass on Thriller. I bought the same transformer off eBay and made that. Sounds great. Always put the Pro 1 through it. solid bass sound. A Design's Ready valve direct box, great for electric bass. Also put the Arp through it a lot. Down here is MIDI patch bay, CV converters. Basses. I started bass was my first instrument when I was 11 years old. So I still like to play those as much as possible. And we've got like a precision with flat wound strings and sponge under by the bridge. That's great for kind of thuddy kind of plonky sound. We've got a Rickenbacker Rick James Special. That's quite kind of clanky and it's good for slapping actually. A few other basics and a little Strat as well. It's a Rory Gallagher signature Strat. Sounds great for, you know, little picked lines and stuff. Jazz Chorus amp because it's nice for guitar and sounds good with keyboards through it. It's got stereo chorus between the two speakers. I've got my Focal Twins. They're my kind of main monitors. Before that I had some Genelecs which were nice, but these are just great, and I've got the sub under there as well, and that's my main mix. I also have the NS10s for reference. They're good, and over there I've got the Avantone Mix Cube, which is in mono, so I can check my mixes both in mono and on a small system at the same time. Midas Venice desk, which is actually a live desk, but for me it works great because I mostly use it for the auxes. I'll send channels out of it, use the auxes to use hardware effects in the rack, and also the buses for parallel compression and parallel processing of any kind, and the inserts, and then I'll print back into Pro Tools, which is mostly, you know, it's a mostly hardware setup, so it acts as a tape machine. But I also find the editing is just really simple. Everything's just blocks, and for the most part it works like an actual console, so I understand it easily. Oh, the Simmons. You know, don't get to use it very often, but it's fun when I do. I made a little MIDI to SDS box so I can trigger it from the computer if I want. I've also got a little set of pads that's nice to set up and play sometimes. Okay, so this is my rack, which my dad made for me actually, which is great. Up here there's a Roland SRE 555 Space Echo, which is, as well as being great as like an aux for mixes, I think perhaps because it's Roland as well, it's great with synths. The reverb sounds great, and the chorus is really typical kind of good Roland chorus. Patch bay, just, you know, so I can connect everything. I've got a Behringer, what's it called? ADA 8000, just for 8 extra outputs if I need them when I'm sending stuff from Pro Tools out to the desk. Mytech converters, which I think are great. I did a blind test a while ago, and I narrowed it down to the Mytechs and Lavery Gold. They were my favourite, and the difference in price there's just no contest. So I'm really happy with them. RME Fireface 800, that's my main 8 outputs. 1176 DIY one that I made. It sounds great. Dolby 361. I don't know what you'd call them. Noise. It's like noise reduction, I guess, for a tape machine. But if you send, there's an old trick like Def Leppard records and Queen records and stuff. They used to send the vocal the wrong way through it, so it would actually excite the top end rather than what it was designed to do, which is taking the hiss out. I think that's how I understand it anyway. Sounds great on vocals. 500 series rack. Started out really small with just the API 512, but it made such a big difference, in comparison to just the preamps that come on a converter. It was amazing. I basically record everything through that. Avidis MA5, that's more of a Neve thing. That's nice also. Inward Connections Brute, that's like an optical compressor, something a bit more soft. Pete's Place BAC 500, again that's an 1176 clone. That's my main tracking compressor. 2 DIY Pultecs, solid state Pultecs, which sound great. 2 vintage API 550s, which came from Wally Hyder's studio in San Francisco, which I believe is where they mixed Fleetwood Mac Rumours and Headhunters, Herbie Hancock, stuff like that. And I think Prince uses these too, so good enough for them, good enough for me, kind of thing. This is a DIY Neve 1084, 2 channels of that, which I found the original transformers on eBay from the Marinair transformers, they're called, which just sound amazing. I'll show you the difference between, just off and on later with no EQ. It sounds fantastic. SSL bus compressor clone, really easy to make. Can't recommend that enough. An old Neumann EQ, mastering EQ, which I think was from like a vinyl cutting thing, but that stays on my stays across my mix just as a little bit of something. Old Siemens broadcast EQs, I think. They sound, the top end on those is really great. You can add like 15 dB of 12K and it still sounds nice. It just gets brighter. DBX 160X, which is great for kick. Aphex 204. It's okay, it's cheap. Stay there for a while. 3630, obviously, if you're doing a kind of pumping French house thing. Transient Designer, great for drums, just making kick and snare a little bit harder. Yamaha Rev 7, which I basically just use for the gated reverb. It's classic. Little Labs IBP, which I use if I record a bass or a synth and I record a DI and an amp track, I use that to adjust the phase so they sound as strong as they can. DBX 160, classic bass compressor, sounds great on synth bass too. DBX 120 XP subharmonic synth, which is like That's like the effect that makes the sort of rumble in the cinema type of thing. Sounds great on kick. Lexicon PCM70 tiled room is just like a classic effect for drums. Little bit of ambience, nothing too obvious. Eventide H3000 is great for the left and right kind of pitch up, pitch down widener thing, and I also really like this phaser, Bob Clear mounting phaser. And Sonic DP4, any self-respecting Daft Punk fan has to have one of those. And Clark Technic, what's it called? It's like DN780 reverb. I have the controller up here on the desk, which is really nice. I think I have a bit of a thing for hardware reverb over software. I'm not sure why. It seems to have a different character, a bit more life somehow. And speaking of which, behind here there's a Great British Spring. I really like my shake it, you can hear it. Really like Spring reverb. I think it sounds great on everything. And this is my emulator 2, which I mostly use for drums. Almost forgot about that. Again, this is more like German or Swiss, maybe even, broadcast stuff. It's a WSW germanium transistor EQ, which is really, it's nice and warm and it sounds old. It's good on the master.